Hello there everybody, Sam Strains here, welcome back to the Railway and welcome back to another Bachmann tank engine review. So today I'm going to be unboxing the Bachmann Fairburn tank engine, and here it is right now. This is an engine that I've always liked the look of, but up until recently I've never bought one, I've never owned one. So this is a first for me, never looked at this particular class before, in a review that is, although of course I have shown this once or twice before in running sessions. So anyway, this is the Lms Black version, which in real life was quite a short-lived livery. It was only around for approximately 3 years, and certainly the locomotives, well these locomotives, spent most of their lives, the vast majority of their lives, under BR ownership. So a short-lived livery, which is an interesting phrase. These have an RRP of, I think, somewhere between 135 and 140 pounds. The RRPs for the different variations of this seem to vary a little bit. That's as far as I can gather. And this was a Hatton's job. I bought it for 88 pounds from Hatton's, which is quite a bit less than the RRP, which is fantastic as far as I'm concerned. And it is actually the weathered version. So again, that's something I don't do too often. Only a small handful of my locos are weathered. So I'm really looking forward to getting this out. I really hope you guys enjoy it as well, and so without any further ado, let's do that straight away and see what she's like. This is the Bachmann Fairburn tank. And this particular tank engine is a 264, and I've noticed actually that Bachmann make quite a lot of tank engines of this kind of size. There's quite a few standards. There's a 2MT, I think it is, there's a 3MT. Is there an IVAT? I think there might be. So if you want me to review more tank engines of this sort of size and this sort of era, let me know. I'll put up a little poll. Do you want to see more, or would you rather see some other kind of stuff? I'm not too sure. But anyway, we're looking at one today, so at least if you vote yes, hopefully today you'll enjoy. Let me show you the end of the box very briefly then. So this one is product code 32-880. It's the Fairburn 264 tank, number 2278, Lms Black weathered, and it also says there that it's got an 8-pin DCC socket, which is good for me. I like the 8-pin decoders. And if I show you the back of the box briefly, you can see there is a brief history of the Fairburn tank, and as always, feel free to pause and read that if you'd like to, but as usual, I am going to give you a little bit of history later on, which I'll read out for you. So if you don't feel like reading, that's absolutely fine. But for now then, let's get out this Fairburn tank and figure out exactly what you get inside the box. And I'm really glad to have gotten this in LMS, because normally when you shop around for the cheapest locomotive you can find, you tend to get the BR versions, which are nice, but I prefer personally the Big 4 era. So that's nice for me, and in this case I didn't actually have to pay any more to get that, so that's really good. So anyway, let's get this out. Let me grab the block of ice, which is a bit warped on this one for some reason. As you can see, it's kind of, I don't know if that comes across, it's a bit diagonalised, if that makes sense. Alright, let's take a look at the paperwork then. So this is the Bachmann Collectors Club and warranty information, so I assume you won't be too interested in that. But this looks like an exploded diagram, I'm going to guess. Yep, it's the exploded diagram. So there it is, you can see the locomotive right there, you can see the chassis, and you can see the wheel set and everything like that. Weirdly, it looks like this one's got those horrible square bearings on it, which is pretty shocking, I think, and if that's true, you know, I've grilled Hornby for doing that once or twice, and actually I have noticed that Bachmann do that quite often with their locos, so yeah, I really don't like that. It makes such a difference to have those turned brass bearings in the chassis. It really does, especially for an expensive loco. That's bizarre. Oh, and I forgot to show you on the back of this sheet as well, there's also a little bit of information on running in, curves, body shell removal, all that really useful stuff that will help you when you decide to chip her, or if you certainly need to service her or anything like that. Anyway, let's take the block of ice off then, well, the cover. There we go, that's that gone. And for some reason the detail pack is stuck on the bottom of the packaging this time, so I'm just going to grab it so I can show it to you. It's taped on with a very long piece of tape. But here it is, let's take a look. So it looks like, at a very quick glance, it looks like you may have cylinder drain cocks there. You also have some vacuum pipes, and I think that's probably more or less it. None of it's painted, of course, but then again, I suppose it wouldn't match the logo if it was, so that's fair enough. So there's the detail pack. Quite sparse, but again, probably most of the detail is fitted onto the loco already, so that's not a problem. Okay, let's get this open then. There we are. Lift the loco out. Alright, it's got quite a bit of weight to it actually. It's not one of those that you lift up and it hits you and you think, blimey, this thing's heavy. But it's reasonably heavy. It's certainly not light by any means. But there she is, number 2278, the beautiful LMS Fairburn tank. And what a lovely effect that weathering has. Some people aren't keen on weathering, and generally I prefer locos that aren't weathered. But certainly this is a very business-like model, which I think looks quite a bit better weathered actually. I think I really like the weathered effect. So there she is, quite a large tank engine as well, noticeably. Look at the size of her. Really pretty big. So there she is. I'm going to show you her up close in just a second, but first of all, here's a little bit of history on the Fairburns, just in case anybody's interested. So the Fairburn 264s were a tank engine designed for the LMS and introduced in 1945. A total of 277 were built to the design of Charles E. Fairburn, and the design retained many features of the older Stanier 264 design, which in turn was based on Fowler's original 264 tank. The class was only part of the LMS for 3 short years, of course, because in 1948 nationalisation occurred and they became part of the BR fleet. They continued to be produced until 1951, which means that many of them were produced under BR ownership as well, and the class performed mixed traffic duties until their withdrawal, which took place somewhere between 1961 and 1967. Only 2 were preserved, but unfortunately the rest were scrapped, although I suppose we should be grateful that a couple were preserved, because of course there are many classes out there which have no examples preserved. Anyway, here's a close look at her then. So there she is then, up against the white background, the very, very lovely Bachmann Fairburn tank. And the thing that I love so much about this tank is just the size and the shape of the thing. It really is a monstrous tank engine, especially when you think about the Barclay 040, which would be totally dwarfed by something as large as this. So I think just the scale of this thing is absolutely incredible. And another thing that makes this loco really, really impressive is the weathering. As you can tell, the weathering, in fact looking at it from the side like this, the weathering is so subtle you might even believe that it isn't weathered at all. But subtle weathering like that just really brings out the realism, especially on the buffer beams and on the linkage rods and that sort of thing. It just makes the thing look a lot more realistic, and so with this model in particular, I think that really does bring the model to life. Now, unlike most Bachmann locos with this kind of price tag, there isn't very much metalwork going on with the body. In fact, most of the body, the vast majority of it, is made just out of plastic, but the small amount of running board visible at the front, so just here underneath the smoke box and down around the buffer beam, is actually made of cast metal, and I think that's really nice, especially for the price tag. It's really nice that Bachmann didn't just make that out of plastic, and certainly those parts being made of cast metal, die-cast metal, really brings the weight of the whole loco up, which is quite noticeable. As I said, it's certainly not a light loco. The painted detail on this model is quite minimal though. As you can see, you have got the LMS lettering on the side of the tanks there, which is done very nice, and I love the way that you can still see the rivets behind that paintwork, which is, I suppose, exactly how they would have been in real life. And of course you've got similar nice lettering here on the back of the coal bunker, 2278, quite nicely lettered actually. You've got sort of like a darker outline around those, which I think looks really elegant, and again you can see the riveting going on behind there, which is really, really realistic. The smokebox door also has a fair bit of painted detail on there. You can see the running number again duplicated on there, and you've also got the shed code. And while we're looking at the smokebox door, you can see that there is also quite a bit of separately fitted work going on. You can clearly see the hinges on the door, and it looks as though you've also got a separately fitted smokebox handle, which is really nice. Looking down at the buffer beam, once again they're beautifully painted, and the weathering really brings those to life. I mean, it's quite subtle. It doesn't look like the loco's been driven through a swamp or anything like that, but just that little bit of an off red to the buffer beam really brings it to life. And of course you have got separately fitted sprung buffers. Let me just demonstrate, which also have been nicely weathered, but not too heavily, which I think is really lovely. And just above there you can see you've also got separately fitted lampines, which are nicely fitted onto there, very sturdily fitted on too. And you've also got the LMS builder's plate just printed onto there, which again is legible and really, really nicely done too. Again, the weathering makes that stand out a lot better, I think. The whole area on the side of the smoke box is very nicely detailed. I assume most of this stuff will be separately fitted, and although it is unpainted, it really is nice to see so much detail on the side there. And similarly, on the top of the tanks, you can see a whole wealth of separately fitted detail going on there, which once again brings the loco to life. In front of the cab you can see you've got this beautiful whistle, which is a really tiny little piece of metalwork there, but I think it is metal, it isn't just plastic, and that's the same with the safety valves here. I believe they are not plastic, I believe they are metal, which again, for the price tag, is something that you can absolutely expect. If we take a look at the cab, you can see that there are glazed windows here, which again have that little bit of muck on them, just as you'd expect from a loco that's been out there working for a year or two. And that's really nice. Unfortunately, inside the cab there isn't any painted detail, which again, for the price tag, is a little bit of a shame. True, you can't see inside the cab too great with a model like this, but for the money, it would have been nice to see a little bit more cab detailing than that, but it's not a huge problem. Certainly looking at it like we are now from this angle, the cab detailing is not something that's going to strike you, but sometimes just knowing that there's a realistically painted cab inside one of your locomotives can make all the difference for the sake of realism. Taking a look inside the coal bunker, you can see this lovely coal load in here, which slopes forwards realistically as though the fireman's been shoveling coal out from the hatch inside. That's a really nice detail. As always with Bachmann, the coal is quite shiny, it looks like it's wet almost, but I think it will be removable, so if you're really not happy with it, you can change it. But actually, I think that looks pretty good in there. I just love the sloping effect, that's really good. Anyway, around the back you can see just a whole wealth of separately fitted handrails and lamp irons, and you've also got the capacity there, I presume, for the tanks. Really impressive. Underneath there, again, you've got more separately fitted buffers, which are sprung, of course, and another beautifully detailed and weathered buffer beam. This loco also has the NEM couplings fitted to the front and the back, which is very nice. I didn't have to fit those, they came with the model, which is nice. It means you can get it straight out, and once it's been running, of course, you can get it to pull some rolling stock. And speaking of running, you can see you've got such a sophisticated array of moving rods and linkage there, which really does look superb when it's running. Around this area you can also see there's a great deal of separately fitted pipework on the underside of the locomotive, although it is right in a position where you tend to lift the locomotive, and when you lift it up you can feel it flexing under your fingers, so you have to remember to sort of hold it by the sides of the tanks and not grip it too low down. But again, a really nice detail to see. So yes, it's an expensive loco. I'm not sure if I'd be happy with it for £135, but certainly for the £88 that I paid, I've gotten myself a very highly detailed loco, which looks also very realistic thanks to its beautiful weathering. But even without the weathering, it's a highly detailed loco which looks absolutely beautiful. It's not without its faults. I would personally have preferred it had a little bit of detailing in the cab, but of course the fact that it hasn't isn't the end of the world. And I've double checked online, and it does seem that this loco does just have those square bearings. It doesn't have any turned metal ones, which is a little bit of a shame because it means it's not going to last as long, and it's certainly going to experience wear and tear a lot more quickly than say one of the nicer Hornby locos, which has those turned metal bearings. And certainly for the price tag, I don't think that's too much to ask, but generally I think this is a pretty good value model. And even if you buy one of the other liveries, which are going I think for around £100 to £110, to be honest with you, the value isn't absolutely terrible. To get a loco these days for anything close to £100, to be honest, is pretty impressive, and really the prices of these don't seem too bad to me, although of course there is room for improvement. Anyway, let's see how she runs then. Really looking forward to getting her running for you. Let's get to it. Okay, so there she is then, down onto the track, ready to couple to her train, and I must admit, when it comes to performance, the fact that she hasn't got proper bearings doesn't seem to have affected her too much. She's still a good slow runner, and she's quite good with her load as well, as you're going to see in a moment. I have noticed though that she's a little bit noisy, and she does tend to run with a bit of a click, which again could be improved by having proper bearings. But anyway, yeah, no major problems with the running. As you can see, she's going to be coupling up to quite a big mixed train, so to start with, you've got this massive shot look with the LMS coaches to start with, and then behind those three there are some of those green SC wagons that I showed in my first live stream of Series 2, so hopefully that will be nice, and that's quite a big long train, so if she can pull that okay, we'll know that she's a good strong puller. But for now then, let's try her at slow speed and let's see what you think about this, and don't forget to let me know in the comments if you're impressed by this. Just turning up the power now. Very slowly. It's not terribly smooth. There are locos out there that do a smoother job than that, but it's pretty good to be fair. Let's try again. Yep, inching forwards there. A pretty good slow speed actually. It's pretty much up there, and of course she does have 3 sets of pickups on each rail, so express points and that kind of thing really don't cause her too much trouble, as long as you keep them clean, of course. The wheels, that is, and the pickups. So actually, a pretty good runner. Possibly should be smoother if she had proper bearings, but just look at all those rods going around and the linkage. It really is a sophisticated one in that sense. So yeah, fantastic. Now, when I first ran her today, I did notice a bit of smoke came out from inside the cab, which is a little bit worrying, but touch wood, she does seem to be okay. So keep an eye on that. Okay, let's reverse her to the first few coaches then, and we'll see if she can couple to them okay. Alright, slow it down for the coach. Yeah, she's certainly not a super good runner, as you could see there. It wasn't terribly smooth, but it's certainly not bad, is it? It's not absolutely terrible, and once she gets up to a decent speed, things are a lot better. So let's do that now. Let me set her at a fair speed, and as you can see, she manages this train without a problem, and it's quite heavy, but I have tested her strength, and she can pull quite a bit more than this. But obviously I don't want to be stressing her out. But yeah, that's pretty good. Let me show you what's going to be running on the middle line then. So here I've got my Fowler 4P tank, which is actually technically a passenger tank engine, but on this occasion she is going to be pulling some milk vans from the LMS. So here she is now, and this loco is actually a bit of a hybrid between new and old, because she's actually got a modern Hornby body on her. Let me bring her a bit closer in. But she's got, as you can probably tell by just listening to her, she's got the older Hornby chassis inside. So actually, yeah, she's a bit of a hybrid. But yeah, there she is with an LMS milk train, looking very lovely. Thought that would be nice to do for a change. And then coming in on the inside line, I've got something altogether much more modern, and this one is the Bachmann LMYR Class 5 tank engine. Let me just alter the focus so you can see her come in. She's a 242, so very unusual in that sense, and she's pulling a little rake of four-wheeled wagons. Well, they're not wagons, they're coaches. So hope you enjoy the running session, see which other tank engines you can spot, and see if you can spot an odd one out. There is one. So enjoy the running session, folks. Let's see how this goes. There we go, just waiting for the Fairburn. There she is. So yes, as you can see, she's very good and powerful, managing that load without a problem at all. I have to admit though, as I say, she does run with a bit of a click, which to be fair you can't hear right now because of the XO4 motor making all the noise. It's not too serious, and it doesn't sound like an unhealthy click. Sometimes you get those really obnoxious clicks which sound like something's broken. Doesn't sound like that, but it's not as quiet and reliable as some locos, I would say. But it's not terrible. Well, we've got a problem, folks. The LMYR Class 5 has just started slowing down and producing a lot of smoke. I have actually just cleaned the motor out and she seems to be okay again now, but I'm not convinced that the problem's fixed. So why these Bachmann motors continually fail, I don't know. But I'm going to have to buy another one now. Another motor, that is. Oops, got another problem in the works here. Oh, goodness me, hang on, I've got to stop this lot. Oops, went out of focus a bit there, sorry about that. But yeah, lovely to run a mixed train for a change, isn't it? And I do love those green wagons, I think they look fantastic together. Well, oddly the LMYR loco seems to be okay again now, but yeah, I might find out how much a new motor costs and then decide if it's not too expensive. Of course, there's quite a large gear ratio between the motor and the chassis of the original Hornby 4P anyway, which is why she can go so nice and slowly at a moderate power. She's a really quite good runner, that one. So here we go then with my ratings for the Bachmann Fairburn tank. Detail 4 out of 5. As you clearly saw while I was showing the model to you, the detail is nothing less than impressive, except of course there isn't any painted cab detail, but to be honest with you, that is the only criticism I can think of, so 4 out of 5 there. Power, I've given this one 5 out of 5. I'm actually amazed by how powerful this locomotive is. She can manage obviously quite a big train, as you can see by what she's pulling today, but probably quite a bit more as well. Very, very powerful. Slow speed, as you could see, the slow speed was very, very good. It was definitely above average. It wasn't the best slow speed I've ever seen from any loco, but it was pretty good, so I've given it 4 out of 5 there. Quality then, I've given it 3 out of 5, which is right in the middle of the road. Generally the detail and the bodywork is of a very, very high quality, and good quality materials seem to have been used, although of course there isn't any proper bearings on the wheel set, which means that it's going to wear out quicker than it should. I really don't like that feature, and so I've knocked a couple of points off for that. Otherwise it's pretty good. There is a little bit of looseness in some of the pipe works, but as long as you're careful it's not much of an issue. Value then, I've decided from now on I'm going to evaluate the RRP, because obviously the prices I pay for locos aren't going to be the same for everybody. So the RRP of approximately £135 does seem a little bit steep for what you get here. It's not an extravagantly painted model, and again it's got a couple of corners cut, such as the bearings and the cab detail, but there are worse deals out there, so I've given it 3 out of 5, the middle of the road. Certainly though, if you're going to pay the £88 that I paid, or certainly anything close, then you're getting a really, really good deal. Overall then, that is 7.39 out of 10, a fair score, pretty average I would say. That ranks her 9th, just above the Bachmann 7F and below the Hornby Sentinel. Not bad at all. There goes the Class 5 with a good strain. It's always going to be worrying me now, every time I get her to run, whether she's going to be in smoke and flames or not. But I'll look into it, I will. But let's try not to take the shine off the Fairburn, of course. But yes, there's definitely an issue with Bachmann motors. People say the Hornby motors are bad, but I tend to just get problems with the Bachmann ones. Right, do you fancy a train ride then? Might as well let you have one, hadn't I? Alright, let's do it. Now the 4P was going nice and slowly, but then she stopped on the express point, so what I've done now is sped her up some. As you can see, she's got a bit of speed to her if she wants it, and that's about perhaps just over 50% power, so yep, quite a good speed coming from her. Alright then folks, well that is just about going to do it for today. I really hope you enjoyed that. That was my review of the Bachmann Fairburn tank, and to be fair, she is pretty good loco, really happy with that one. If you did enjoy the video, please feel free to leave it a like or even a comment, because I do love it when you guys get in touch. But for now folks, that is all I've got to say, so once again, thank you for your company, thanks for watching, and I'll see you all next time. Cheers everybody.